Oh, happy Friday, Junior, everyone. Welcome back into another edition of Prime Sports World. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the sad state of the 2022 NFL draft class as the most fifth-year options declined in the history of the fifth-year option of the NFL draft. So we're going to talk a little bit about, is this a testament of what this draft process was? Because this was the draft of the pandemic with no combine, very limited game film. We'll talk about that here on the Prime Sports World today on today's episode. I'm, of course, your David Huppin right there, CEO. Rivera, welcome into the show. Izzy, man, it is 80 degrees right now in Fort Wayne, man. It is gorgeous.
Oh yeah, summertime is definitely here, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys definitely have enjoyed the last couple of days.
Yep. And the NFL schedule is going to go up in about 30 minutes. We're going to bring you a special Friday episode of the Prime, breaking down some of the key matchups of the NFL schedule tomorrow. Keep an eye out for that content. And then next week, we're going to start our season preview segments, previewing the season for every single team in the NFL, leading all the way up to the Kansas City Chiefs, Super Bowl champions. But today, we're talking about the 2020 NFL draft class. Includes your boy, Jordan Love, who also had his fifth-year option declined, who they extended. Whole thing. But let's take a look at some of the names here. Like the note. So this is the most fifth-year declines after. So it includes Chase Young, Isaiah Simmons, C.J. Henderson, Mekhi Becton, Javon Kinlaw, Austin Jackson, Kason, Cesar Ruiz, the Saints center, Kenneth Murray, Jalen Reagor for the Vikings, Jordan Brooks, Patrick Queen, Noah Igbinoghene, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Jeffrey Okudah is not eligible because of his recent trade to the Falcons. Jordan Love declined and then extended. Only 12 players accepted the fifth-year option. By the way, that does not even include the guys that were already waived before they got to this point, including Henry Ruggs, Damon Arnett, Isaiah Wilson, and Jeff Gladney. Jeff Gladney, who tragically passed away last year in a car accident.
See, those three situations, well, except the Raider Reach, those other two situations are, this crazy situations, right? One guy passed away and another guy, got into a vehicular manslaughter case.
Yeah. And Isaiah Wilson was a reach when they drafted him. He basically got arrested a bunch and then never played again.
Yeah. Well, you said who? Isaiah who?
Isaiah Wilson. He was the tackle out of Georgia that he was drafted by the Tennessee Titans, if you remember, a couple years ago. He made he had made it one season before he was traded to Miami and then released.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, I don't even remember that kid. See, this draft class kind of stinks.
But I think it goes back to the testament. So this is the draft class, the pandemic draft class. So they basically only had game tape to lean on. There was no combines. There was no pro day. Basically, your footage on and everybody looks great in game footage, right? Like they're able to put highlights. You look great in your game footage. I think that has a lot to do with so the 2018 draft class only had 10 players refuse their fifth-year option. Only 13 last the year before. I imagine that the 2021 draft class will have way more players accepting the fifth-year option.
Yeah, because that is the actual they actually some of those guys either didn't even play their last college football season or only played 6 or 7 games, something like that. I think Justin Fields only played 6 games or something like that his last season at Ohio State. So that 2021 draft class is going to be even more than this, because this draft class is the last year where they but just before the pandemic and they shut down the college football season.
This was the last regular college football season before the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So I just look at these names. I just think that some of these are just kind of baffling to me. I know Chase Young has been injured. I know ever since he tore his ACL. But you might as well just lock him up, because if he plays well this season, you got to franchise tag him or extend him long term. And basically, what happened with Daniel Jones on the New York Giants, he got his fifth-year option declined, and then basically the Giants were forced to pay him this offseason. And that's another gamble you roll here with this be kind of declining the fifth-year option and then having that guy blow up, and then you're kind of stuck.
So I look at some of these guys and I think Chase Young he's got a prove-it year. I think if he stays healthy, that could be a mistake on the Commanders' part. Javon Kinlaw, who's a massive human being. I mean, I don't think the production is always.
He hasn't been good. on the 49ers. Like he's basically gotten overshadowed by everybody else on that team.
Yeah, that's all. Like he's just a massive human being, but I mean, he's been super inconsistent.
The other thing is that's a 49ers roster that's very expensive. Like, like they can't. Maybe they just straight up couldn't afford to pay what the rookie contract. So he would have been making next on his basically $11 million, and I just don't know if he's worth $11 million. Given the production they've gotten out of him so far. Some of the major players that have got their option picked up were, Joe Burrow, Andrew Thomas, Tua Tagovailoa, Derek Brown of the Carolina Panthers, Justin Herbert, Jedrick Wills, Tristan Wirth, Jerry Jeudy, AJ Terrell, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, and Brandon Ayuk, like all standout members of this draft class.
Right, exactly. When I look at the guys that you have on the list, like a guy like Patrick Queen, I mean, he doesn't benefit. I mean, they just picked up Roquan Smith, right? You know what I mean? A guy like Jalen Reagor, who hasn't really been good at all. He got traded to the Vikings. He hasn't been good at all since. I'm
also not sure.
Cesar Ruiz is a guy though. Just like my bad, but Cesar Ruiz is a guy that I think they could be making that mistake because he starts for the. He
does.
So they could be making a mistake by not picking up his 5th-year option. As well.
So his 5th-year option, $14 million there for his 5th-year option. I think maybe the Saints are hoping that he struggles this season. They can sign him back on the cheap. I mean that can be the only reason that you wouldn't want to bring your guy back because we get to the point where like if these players if they play well, like you're talking about franchise tag, like you're talking about a lot of money, like fully guaranteed a lot of money. That's tough.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire kind of he's expendable, now.
Yeah, I think because Isaiah Pacheco. I know they haven't brought back Jerick McKinnon yet, but I can't imagine they will eventually. It's just this draft class because of no pro days, no personal workouts, no in-person visits. So you have a lot of this stuff where you just kind of these guys were drafted on just straight up game tape.
Right. And like you said, no pro days. You're not really measuring their athleticism. I mean, I love game tape. I always say, man, put the game tape on. But, sometimes these guys are
well, you got to think about it like this. Some of these guys, like you're playing in college, if you're going to make it in the National Football League, you're going to be better. You're going to look great on tape. You're going to be better than anybody else on the football field. You're just going to look great. But like when the playing field is even, what do you look like? And I think we've seen out of some of these guys that like when the playing field is completely even, you just don't seem to look as good. So, like a Kayvon, like the guy for the Jaguars, like Kayvon. I think the kid from LSU. Like we kind of haul ahead. Like like we kind of thought he would be like
good because he had Jamar Chase and he had Justin Jefferson and Joe. And I think and he's not. He's a defensive guy, right?
Yeah. He's a defensive end. So people thought he would be like he would develop into like a Daniel Hunter type guy, like because he's got those kind of measurables as a tangible, but he just never panned out.
Well, there you go. So that LSU defense had stars all over it. Yeah. And so that's where I was kind of getting to is that a lot of these guys are system guys, man. And so when you're a system guy, you pop out on that tape sometimes, right? But when you get into that NFL and like you said, the even playing field is leveled. I mean, you kind of struggle. When you got to beat out a guy that was just as good as you, in college, and he's a grown ass man, this is his job. He's got to put the food on the table, and he's out there hustling. And you're coming in. I did great at South Carolina. I did great. Here at Florida or LSU. But now I have to go against this grown ass man that is trying to put food on his table. It's just that sometimes it doesn't work. So, I mean, the combine stuff, I like it and I hate it at the same time. I mean, both sides of the tape you have to look at. I mean, you look at the tape and you look at the combine. And sometimes when the tape doesn't look as great, but the combine numbers are great, you can bet on that guy's potential, right? Yeah. We've seen guys that have risen up draft boards because they run a 4.3 40. But they just didn't fit in their college system, and they don't do this well or that well. So I mean, we've seen it. And this draft class is the start of it. And 2021 is going to be even worse, in my opinion.
So another thing that position value, right? So you look at Jordan Brooks and Patrick Queen who are on this list here. Like I think especially Jordan Brooks, who tore his ACL towards the back end of last season, probably still recovering. So the Seahawks were like, we don't think he's gonna play much this season, and we're not gonna bank on the fact that he's gonna return from this injury. Patrick Queen has been a productive player at the linebacker position for the Baltimore Ravens, but the position value of the linebacking position, you can get somebody to play middle linebacker or like linebacker for you in the draft that maybe not as good as Patrick Queen, but way cheaper in the last round. And then Kyle Ezelaire, same idea. I mean, they drafted a guy in the 7th round this year that basically made him irrelevant.
Expendable, to be honest. And I mean, what they raised, they wasted. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was picked in the end of the first round.
Yeah, he was the last pick, I think, in that first round in 2020.
Yeah, last pick of the first round, 32. So yeah, I mean, Isaiah Pacheco, Jerick McKinnon, you can get guys that are 6th round guys that could come in, and especially at the running back position, that could come in and do damage and can have good production instead of a guy that you might have to pay, at the end of his contract, at the end of his rookie contract. And you're talking about a guy like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who was pretty banged up last year, pretty last kind of season and a half. He's been banged up. So I know he was really good, on that Super Bowl run a couple years ago. But, ever since then, he hasn't been good. I mean, he hasn't been healthy.
Yeah, he hasn't been healthy. Another guy, I mean, Kenneth Murray, another guy who charges linebacker. That's the same thing, that position value. I just think that these teams think that, this guy's okay, but we think we can get somebody later in the next year's draft that will replace and do what they do, and we're not going to pay these guys. And that's just kind of the way somebody else is going to be paying. Somebody else will pay Kenneth Murray whatever they think he's worth. Austin Jackson's been kind of a bust for the Miami Dolphins. Mekhi Becton can't stay healthy. Isaiah Simmons, who has all the intangibles of the world, has been extremely disappointing, but he's also dealt with a different head coach, a different defensive coordinator. I think every year he hasn't had the same guy there every year. Noah Iguodala, it just basically is because they have a billion corners. They just don't need him to play. They just traded for Jalen Ramsey. They still have Xavier Howard. They just drafted another guy who's in the first round, I think, or the second round. That's going to be a rotation corner. They just don't need this guy. CJ Henderson hasn't been all that good as a pro. Jeffrey Okudah, before getting traded to the Falcons, who restructured his deal, that's why he's not eligible for the 5th-year option. He hasn't been good or healthy either. So yeah, I think there's a lot to do with this being one of the worst draft classes. Do you think the next draft class is going to be even worse than this?
Man, you know what? Just by like you said, man, a lot of those guys, didn't play many games in their college. Some of those guys even held out a year. I'm just gonna look at it. I mean, we got Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, probably
Zach Wilson, Trey
Lance.
J.C. Horn. Actually, J.C. Horn's been pretty good. Patrick Surtain's been good. Vera Tucker,
Zayvon Collins, Alex Leatherwood, another Raider reach. He ain't getting it. Jalen Phillips.
Jalen Phillips has actually been pretty solid for the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, he's been solid.
Kadarius Toney's already been traded. Quinny Pay's been okay. Caleb Farley, I think, has been released already. Christian Darrisaw has been awesome. Najee Harris is a Pro Bowler. Travis Etienne. Greg Newsome, the second's been solid. Rashad Bateman can't stay healthy. Peyton Turner will for sure get waived. Eric Stokes, I think he's been solid.
He's been solid. What about a guy like Gregory Rousseau, who hasn't really? I don't know, man. He's been all right, but I mean, he hasn't really been.
I do not think as many 5th-year options will be declined in this draft class as the one. I mean, I can already think of 12 guys. I can already think of at least 12 guys that are for sure going to have their options picked up. We got Trevor
Matt
Lawrence,
Jones ain't getting his option. Matt Jones ain't getting picked up.
I think he will.
Do you think he will?
The Patriots don't have any other options. There's no other plan. So Trevor Lawrence, Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Penny Sewell, J.C. Horn, Patrick Surtain, Devontae Smith, Justin Fields, Micah Parsons, Rashawn Slater, Alijah Vera Tucker, Mac Jones, Quinny Pay, Christian Darrisaw, Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, Bateman probably will, Newsome probably will. I imagine the Packers will pick up Stokes. I imagine Jason Owe will have his option picked up. Tryon probably will be not. I don't know about Tryon, but I imagine this draft class will look better on paper than the one that we just had with the unfortunate, like Henry Ruggs was having a sort of breakout season before he got arrested. Damon Arnett never panned out. Jeff Gladney was dealing with some domestic violence stuff before he ultimately lost his life. Damon Arnett was a crazy reach.
That was a horrible draft pick. Anyways.
Yeah, it was a bad draft pick.
And then the next year, Alex Leatherwood too. I mean, I think it's a little 50-50. I think you'll have, I don't know, man. Yeah, you won't have as many declined. Now looking back at both draft classes, I don't think you'll have as many declined.
I think when it's all said and done, we're talking about this conversation. When people want to look at like all-time draft classes, people like to have these conversations. This 2020 draft class will go down as one of the worst ever. 62% of these first round picks have not had their fully contracts automatically extended with, like, they just didn't. 62%. That's a ton. 20 players in this draft class did not have their 5th year option picked up. 20.
That's incredible.
So I don't know. But yeah, on top of that, so we're talking about schedule tonight. What are you looking forward for the Packers tonight when we talk about schedule real quick? Because we about 10 minutes away from that schedule being released. Do you think that Aaron Rodgers leaving the Packers is going to impact her prime time schedule? Yes or no?
Obviously it will. Because we're not tuning in to see Jordan. We're not tuning in to see Jordan Love. He hasn't really proved himself. You know what? Honestly, man, I'm 50-50 on it. I mean, yeah, Aaron Rodgers does, bring in that star power, but it still is the Green Bay Packers, right? I mean, it's still.
I think you'll still get those marquee matchups whenever you go against the Cowboys. If you'll play against the Cowboys, that'll be on TV. If you get the Dallas Cowboys this year, I don't think you actually will. But yeah, I think that.
Obviously the Bears games, those,
Vikings games. One of them would definitely be prime time. Packers Lions is going on Thanksgiving night, man. I'm pretty sure.
Come on. We already know the Lions are going to play on Thanksgiving. That's a given.
But I think they're going to play against the Packers, rematch against the final week of the season. The season that kept you guys out of the playoffs.
And the Bears throwing that jab out there.
You're welcome. I got you. But yeah, we're gonna break down the schedule a little bit more tomorrow on the show. We're gonna some notable games. That schedule is gonna be released in about 8 minutes, and we got the NBA playoffs going tonight. Real quick, Boston season ends tonight. Yes or no?
No. Their season does not end tonight. No,
Phoenix
it does not.
Does Phoenix's season?
Their season does end tonight. Their season does. No DeAndre Ayton. I don't even know what the hell they're going to do at the center position. I know Jock Landale's played very valiantly.
I mean, they got Biombo. They got Biombo too, who's probably going to play a.
Stop. Honestly, we saw this though. with the Phoenix Suns, man. I mean, they do. I mean, you got a couple of decent bench pieces like Terrence Ross and TJ Warren, but those guys haven't really been playing as much as they should be. In the playoffs. I mean, it's really a 2-man show with Durant and Booker. We all said this, that what's going to happen outside of those guys. Chris Paul's not coming back. Yeah, their season's done tonight. And you know what? That's totally fine because next year they can actually have a full season with Durant. You got to figure out what you're going to do with Chris Paul. Devin Booker's kind of grown up in front of your eyes, but Denver's just the better team. They're the deeper team. I think they deserve it. And I want to see, Denver in the Western Conference Finals. And if the Lakers make it, I would love to see that rematch from the bubble a couple years ago.
Me too. But this is
awesome.
This has been Prime Sports World. Thank you very much for checking us out here. We'll be back here tomorrow breaking down the NFL schedule. I cannot wait. We'll see who gets the primetime matchups. We're going to talk about it. The matchups we're most looking forward to. I'm David Huppman. Right there is Mr. Israel Vera and Izzy. Who would you hit the prime, my friend?
I don't have a pen, ladies and gentlemen. We bring the heat, ladies and gentlemen.
We bring the heat. Let's go.
Bring the heat, baby. Yeah, baby. Let's go.
You have a good night, man. I'll see you later. Enjoy that warmth, man.
Guys.
It's beautiful out tonight. It's beautiful. Get out there and enjoy it.
Go ahead and walk your dog to the park and enjoy the rest of this day.